Hello and welcome to See You Live. I'm Susan Post, the Associate Editor of Columbus Underground, and I have with me today CU's very own film critic, Hope Madden. Hope, thanks for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
So we're going to have a fun little discussion about movies and some of the best movies of the year, what people should watch. I mean, finally got to go back to theaters this year. Things are getting back to normal-ish. You saw a lot of these big releases that got pushed back finally appear. So just want to start with what you think are some of the can't miss movies of the year.
A lot of them are already available for streaming because there was a lot of day and date streaming as well this year. I think some of my favorite films of this year, for example, Pig with Nicolas Cage was a masterpiece and wildly unexpected because it's Nicolas Cage and a pig.
Yeah.
But is an incredibly good movie. And then one I think that people really missed out on that I really enjoyed from a couple weeks ago, Last Night in Soho.
That looks so trippy.
It's so much fun. It's so fun. Edgar Wright in his just Edgar Wrightest. And the soundtrack is amazing, and the costumes are amazing, and the performances are great, and it's very upbeat. At the same time, it's kind of spooky. And so it bombed. So that's unfortunate.
Really?
So I want to draw people's attention to it. There are a couple other ones. The new James Bond was one that we did wait for forever and ever and ever and ever. And I'm not a massive James Bond fan, but I was really happy with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was smart and it did a great job of emphasizing him as a character, which is prior to Daniel Craig, he was never a character.
Yeah.
He was just sort of a wise crack and a suit, and Daniel Craig made him into a character, and I thought that this was a great way to close that arc.
Admittedly, those are the only James Bond movies that I've seen, but I love them. And I got really emotional in this one. I was not expecting that. And I was trying to hide the fact that I was almost crying for my husband. It's fine. It's fine. I know. I can't even remember what all I've seen this year at this point. So I was going back through movie lists before we were having this discussion. I want to get your take on Old. I'm so, because I know it kind of got mixed reviews, so I want to see what you think about it, and then I'll say what I think.
It's funny, I think it's very easy to sort of knee-jerk to something. You know what I mean? And I think that M. Night Shyamalan's films lend themselves to that. You're either like, wow, or you're like, oh, Lord, and I tried not to do that with Old. I think that it looked glorious. And I thought that there were some great performances in it, and I thought that it was by and large dumb.
Yeah. I was laughing when I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I was just turning to my husband and laughing out loud in the theater. Yeah. I wasn't the only one though, so I felt a little bit better about that.
No.
I thought it was an interesting premise, but it was just, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny too because the actors, all of them, are so good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're incredibly talented actors, every single one of those people. And they, as a horror film, there's only really the one bone snapping section that would say, oh yeah, this is a scary movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And the rest of it, I felt like it was. It tried too hard.
Yeah.
And then the adult actors who were playing children, and they're both very talented people. They didn't pull it off particularly well, and it was a little cringy.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah. Fun, good stuff I watched. Shiva Baby. I think you.
Oh yes.
That one was really interesting. That's not the kind of thing I normally watch, but did it on a whim, and I could feel that. I think you were mentioning it's that sort of claustrophobia and watching that, and. So are there any other kind of you mentioned a few under the radar ones, but any other good under the radar kind of movies you recommend from this year that people should see?
One of the ones that I really loved was Lamb. We were talking about that just before we started this. It's like a folk tale. It's a horror film that's not really scary. It's more of a folk tale. It's set in Iceland. Gorgeous. It's unbelievably beautiful. Great performance from Noomi Rapace, which is great because I was always a fan of hers, but I felt like her English language films weren't as strong as they could have been, and so I was happy to see her really excel in something else. So I thought that was a great one. There's one that's out on Netflix right now called Passing.
Okay.
Rebecca Hall, it's her first behind the camera. She wrote the screenplay, she adapted a novel and directed it. And it stars Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson. And I feel confident one or both of them are going to get Oscar nominated for it, as is the cinematographer for sure. And it's on Netflix, and it's great. Awesome. And I feel like that people aren't going to see it. And then the other one, The Harder They Fall.
Oh, I want to see that.
So fun, and it came out in theaters a couple of weeks ago. It didn't get a great big response, but I think that's because most people realized it was going to be on Netflix right away.
Yeah,
it's got the greatest cast. It's so much fun.
Nice. Okay, I'm adding that to the list.
Yeah,
because I want to see that. I want to see The French Dispatch.
Yes.
Last Duel.
Yes. Boy, The Last Duel is one that people slept on. That was a bomb as well, and it's so smart. The performances are so. I mean, it's so smart. And the performances are amazing, but it's also a Ridley Scott. So when they do get to the action sequences, they're just mind blowing. I mean, too many people missed that one. That was another bomb. I mean, it's a great movie.
I want to see Zola because when that came out, I went back and read the Twitter thread.
Yes.
So I got really invested in that, and I know I'm a Succession watcher, and I love Cousin Greg, and I know he's in that. And, can't wait to see that from him. So those are on my watch list.
Those are great choices.
We have a couple months left of the year. So what are some other, films coming out this year still that people should be on the lookout for?
I am excited for Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh yeah.
Starring sexiest man alive, Paul Rudd.
Oh, Paul Rudd.
No offense, Paul Rudd, but what? There's super likablest man alive, Paul Rudd. I'm very excited about that one.
Uh-huh.
I'm tentatively excited about the Ricardos, because Javier Bardem is one of my all-time favorite actors, and Nicole Kidman, of course, is great. Great. Yeah. I'm a little concerned about it, but I'm sort of eager to see it anyway. So those are a couple of the ones that I'm the most excited about seeing.
Okay, so we've been talking about all these great films, best films, things you need to see. What about some of the worst movies that you watched this year?
The worst movie I saw this year, hands down, was Tom and Jerry. It was so hard for me to sit through. And being a film critic, it's like the easiest, best, coolest job in the whole wide world. And the last thing I would do is complain, except that if you're not that and you turn on Tom and Jerry, you can leave. Yeah. And the whole time I'm like, oh, is this movie still on? It's
out of left field. That was not what I was expecting.
It's the worst. But one of maybe the most polarizing film of this year, although there have been a lot, which is always fun, polarizing movies, is Malignant.
Okay.
And I have a lot of feelings about Malignant. And it's a funny thing because it's just dumb. It's the dumbest movie. It's the dumbest movie. And yet, and I think that for me the biggest problem, it's 2.5 hours long. It should be 90 minutes tops. Uh-huh. And if it were just 90 minutes and this dumb, it would still be sort of a bold and amazing film because it's completely insane, and it's this big budget movie that takes all of the old Italian giallo tropes and then sort of mixes them with kind of like a Hallmark Channel drama.
Okay. It's quite a descriptor.
It's insane.
I'm not a big horror watcher, so what is it about, or what broad premise of Malignant? I'm not familiar.
That's okay.
Maybe for the better, it sounds like.
So there's a woman, and she breaks things off with her abusive husband, and she starts, after sort of a trauma with her abusive husband, she starts seeing these very graphic murders in sort of a waking dream scene, and they're being perpetrated by somebody with all black on, black gloves, black hat, with very giallo stuff with this long hair in his face, and he moves up very awkwardly. Anyway, the point is, it's insane. That doesn't do any kind of justice to the movie. Yeah. Really, if it's on, because it's on HBO Max or something. Okay. Just watch the last maybe 30 minutes of it. Well worth it, because that's insanity at the highest crux. Don't watch the first hour of it because it's just a snooze fest that you have to wade through before you get to what's nuts.
Good to know. Any other bad film shout-outs? Do we have a third one? Round trio here.
Wow. There are I'm trying to think of some of the other polarizing movies this year that I actually really liked, because I fell on the positive side of several of these. There was one called The Woman in the Window, which was a massive bomb with a great cast.
Is that the one that Amy Adams is in? Yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see that one.
And it's funny because it's not a good film, but if you go into it expecting sort of a plot that's going to surprise you, that's going to take you places, but if you go into it looking at it differently, because it was it's like a weird send-up / homage of a lot of different movies. It opened on Rear Window, Hitchcock's Rear Window. So really, I think what it was just like a celebration of sort of all of his weird tropes and fetishisms.
All the Hitchcock things in one movie.
All of these great actors in it.
Okay.
And so when I looked at it that way, I'm like, this is super fun. But other people who thought should I follow a plot? They did not enjoy it. No.
Yeah. All right, so now you have lots of choices of things to watch all over the spectrum. Let us know what you're excited about seeing in the next couple of months in the comments, and also if you want to know what's new, how it fares, what's going on, definitely check out Hope's movie reviews with Hope and the Gang every Friday on CU. So thanks so much for being here today.
Sure, very fun.